Hello, hello, everyone. Want to do a little card pull as they speak with the interview that Micah's father, Michael, did with Law and Crime Network. Looking to see if there's any similar patterns of cards that come out as certain things are said from the previous 3 readings that I did for Micah. This is an energy reading. It's all alleged, my opinion, not fact. And I will link this interview in the description. Again, it's Law and Crime Network with Micah's father, Michael. All right, let's get started.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to start off. How are you and the family doing right now?
We're struggling. You know, we're more united than ever as a family. You know, this is something that has really caused us to drop any little petty arguments or something and focus on what's important at this moment. So, you know, we have grieved off and on.
Focus on what's important at this moment. Corruption. Leave that there for now.
But we've also been in fight mode off and on as far as legally and, you know, and speaking out for Micah.
Let's talk about that because, and I want to be very clear here. Despite the findings from law enforcement that Micah had died by her own hand, that the sheriff's office saying John Paul was not in Robeson County when Micah died, do you believe there is more to the story, correct?
Yes, it's there's a lot of details that they did not cover, and because it was equivalent in their eyes to previous self-inflicted wounds, I believe the law allows them.
There are certain things that I forget how he worded it. There are certain things that law enforcement has not released yet. The first one that came out was health issues in reverse. So we're focusing on what's important. We're letting go of anything petty to focus on what's important, corruption. There's things that they know, as in the investigators or law enforcement, that they have not talked about yet. We have health issues in reverse. And to clarify that, I have self-sabotage in reverse. Those 2 cards, if Micah did this to herself, should both be upright. She would have self-sabotaged and caused a health issue. Contract paperwork in reverse makes me feel like it has not yet been finalized what they, how do I word this? What they're telling us that they believe happened, it feels like they're not final on that yet. Like it feels like it's still really being investigated and it's still really up in the air. I don't feel like this is something where they're just telling us, I don't know, if it feels like what this is saying is there's pressure being put on the investigators or police because of everyone speaking about potential corruption and how a lot of things in this case don't make sense. Self-sabotage and health issues are both in reverse when he mentioned what they know about that they have not spoken publicly about yet in terms of the investigators and police. If this was a self-unaliving, self-sabotage should have caused the health issues. They're both reversed. Contract paperwork to me is we're not final yet on what we truly believe happened. And then we have life insurance. To clarify that, I pulled life insurance and imprisonment. So to me, it feels like what he's alluding to is that there may still be something coming for the pastor in connection with Micah, because this is like, we're not letting it go until you make it make sense, and you can't make it make sense. As in Michael saying that to the investigators. We want it to make sense. Make it make sense. You can't.
To do less work. It does not prevent them from doing more work. And since there were multiple shell casings found and a live round found, it already didn't make much sense. So it would seem that they would...
Multiple shell casings found and a live round found. Multiple shell casings found lot of cards. And a live round found. This one flipped over first. Legal proceedings. Drugs and poison in reverse. Assassination. And greed. And I just placed greed under legal proceedings. There were several, forget what he said now. There were several casings and a live round found. Legal proceedings, drugs and poison in reverse. Greed, taking it too far. Drugs and poison in reverse to me feels like what that is saying is the multiple other casings. I feel like drugs and poison in reverse is saying that the other casings that were found in the live round that was found wasn't because MICA had drugged herself up and gone there and was in like a frenzy. I don't feel like that's it. So if she was as calm as she seemed on the 911 call, and there was all these other casings and stuff, and she wasn't under the influence of something that would make her act that way, why was all the other stuff found? Assassination. And then greed and legal proceedings. Someone took it too far or wanted their cake and wanted their cake and to eat it too. Something serious. So that would, to me, be the pastor. So when he's referencing the other casings and the live round, what I feel like this means is, and I'll pull a card to confirm, other rounds and casings were not because MICA was just having a mental break and shooting all over the place. That is not what happened. And if she was as calm as it appeared as she was on the 911 call, all of that other stuff then does not make any sense. And a confirmation of that. Fear in reverse. Fear in reverse. Lower vibrational energy in reverse. Or fear exposed. Mental health in reverse. So I'm not afraid of my own mental health. That's not what is causing this. I'm not in that panicked frenzy. Okay, that was a good confirmation because I was like, where are we going with fear? So fear would be a lower vibrational or lower density energy, but it's in reverse. So I was not at my rock bottom with my mental health. That's not what all of the extra shots were. Is that what the message is? Confirmed. Collapse in reverse. I was not succumbing. I was not collapsing under my own mental health and just having a mental breakdown in the woods.
Automatically do a complete toxicology, not just blood alcohol, and a complete autopsy, which they did not do. And we're just devastated that they didn't because John Paul rushed the cremation process.
I have to go back a second.
There were multiple shell casings found and a live round found. It already didn't make much sense. So it would seem that they would automatically do a complete toxicology, not just blood alcohol.
Yes, Reverend Father. It would seem that they would do a full toxicology, not just blood alcohol. Parental figure, trafficking. So he, the father, feels like it should have moved in that direction. But someone's happy that they're not going to see what would have been in that report potentially. So the father, Michael, wishes it would have went, traffic moved in that direction, but it was stopped. And someone now is happy that surveillance reversed. No one's going to see what could have potentially been in that report that he's referencing.
And a complete autopsy, which they did not do. And
A complete, let me finish that.
we're just devastated that they didn't, because John Paul rushed the cremation process.
Okay. A full autopsy, which they did not do, manipulation, gaslighting, and control, because John Paul rushed the process. School in reverse, law enforcement. That's not a good combo. It's even worse. Cleanup in reverse, school in reverse, law enforcement. They did not do a full autopsy because they allowed him to rush the process. Law enforcement didn't know better and made a mess. Okay. John Paul wanted to rush the cremation. If we could have 3 cards from MICA about that statement. John Paul wanted to rush the cremation. 3 cards from MICA. Caught and confession in reverse. Okay. 3 cards from MICA about why he wanted to rush the cremation. Caught, confession in reverse. Before that, we got there was going to be things in there'd be things in what the father wanted the testing to happen, but someone else didn't because they didn't want people to see what could potentially be in there. Law enforcement didn't know better and made a mess because of manipulation, gaslighting, and control. What would MICA tell us about why he wanted to rush the cremation so he didn't get caught and have to confess to what would have been found in said tests? War in reverse and anger. So 3 cards from MICA. Why did John Paul want to rush the cremation process? He didn't want to get caught and have to confess. He didn't want the war that would ensue if there was no cremation that was rushed, and that would make him very angry. One more card that's aha, an aha from MICA. Affluent in reverse, the mighty shall fall. Oh, that's funny. It's funny because I kept hearing about the other card, and it felt like there was like funny energy with it. And I was like, this isn't a funny moment, but I guess she wants it to be. The mighty will fall. So he wanted to rush the cremation because he didn't want to be in a position where he'd have to be caught or confess to something. Didn't want the war that would ensue. He'd be very angry. And then to wrap it up from MICA, the mighty shall fall, affluent in reverse. That also has an airplane on the card. So in reverse, he's not going to be able to get away from the mighty falling.
And like during the briefing, we pressed pretty hard for more information and such. And the sheriff's office was trying to compress the briefing for us, and then they gave us a flash drive. It doesn't sound like MICA during the 911 call.
It does not sound like MICA during the 911 call. 3 cards from MICA, that would be a response to her father saying that. The 911 call does not, I've just got goosebumps. The 911 call does not sound like MICA. Blackmail. Someone with a mask on that's on a phone in front of a computer. And in my last reading, I got something about AI generated or altered for the 911 call. So first card, blackmail, someone with a mask on a phone when we're talking about Michael saying that MICA did not sound like herself in that call. Natural disaster and hired. Fired in reverse. Hired. I get you to, or I hire you to come in like this tornado, causing this disaster by masking yourself on the phone. Okay, let's keep going.
She's so slow and so, but then later there are, I haven't even heard them myself, honestly. I have someone who's going through all that for me and filtering the information, because otherwise, the more information I get that sounds off, the more furious I get, and I need to be able to focus and control my emotions.
3 cards. What would MICA's response be to her father saying the more information he gets that doesn't make sense, the angrier he gets? What would MICA's 3-card response be to that statement? Low vibrational in reverse, Republican, burial in reverse. What would MICA say in response to that? To try and keep himself okay and keep pushing forward despite the pushback. I don't want to make this political, but I am getting this with this card. To ignore the politics of it all, to stay in a high vibration, or to stay, he's talking about things that don't line up, making him feel very angry. So what would MICA's response be? I guess I'd say to try and focus on the pieces that do make sense, because his intuition or his intellect is leading him in the right direction. He's getting angry about things that don't make sense because he's right that they don't make sense, but there's people trying to tell him that it has to make sense. So what this is saying to me is, despite the politics or the pushback of everything, try to stay in a high vibration. Burial in reverse. He's doing it in her honor. So I'd word this as, she would say that his anger is rightful and justified because he's recognizing pieces of a puzzle that don't fit in the puzzle or don't make sense. And he's doing this in honor of his daughter to bring justice for her. So while his anger is not wrong, she also wants him to try and know that his anger is justified because he's correct in feeling like certain pieces don't make sense. I don't know if I said that correctly, but let's work in reverse. Oh, under construction in reverse. Under construction in reverse would be something being fixed. What won't work? No, that wasn't it. What won't work? Something won't work. Man-made disaster. Psychic abilities in reverse. Oh. Natural disaster. Psychic abilities in reverse. What won't work? Man-made disaster, psychic abilities in reverse. Is it fair to say that if MICA had to make a statement about her father, she would say that it doesn't matter how much lies you tell him and try to convince him that it's the truth when he's fighting for his daughter? There's not going to be any way that you can convince this man that he's wrong about something that his intuition is telling him doesn't make sense. Like, she's essentially saying they can try as much as they want, but it's not going to work. No tactics are going to work to get this man to back down from recognizing what is truth and what is not, and what fits and what does not. Is that ego when it comes to JP? So ego versus what? Ego versus all the pieces falling apart. He will continue to pick apart the puzzle until he feels like he has the proper answers. Okay, keep going.
Emotions. So, but there was screaming going on and such, and that's not something.
1 second. There was screaming going on and such, and I believe this is part of the 911 call that they didn't release, because I don't know if I've heard screaming in any of the 911 call, but I also heard that power supply in reverse, abuse of power, that there's part of the 911 calls that weren't released yet. So what can we know? 3 cards about screaming in the background, screaming or yelling in the background of a portion of the 911 call that has not been released. Fear in reverse. That's interesting. That's the same card that came out for how she was feeling when she was there. Witness in reverse. Home in reverse. What can we know about screaming in the 911 call? What's that show where like they release people to like go run in the woods and then they chase them? That's what these are giving me, and I don't know why, because I don't really know. I mean, I guess that could be the case. If MICA could explain or describe what would be causing that screaming in 3 cards, what would it be? Manipulation, gaslighting, and control. Freedom in reverse. So I'm trapped. I can't get away. Manipulation, gaslighting, and control. Can't get away. Communication. So I scream. Trying to get away. I'm tied. Maybe not literally, but like I'm tied up. I'm unable to get myself free. And the scream is communication. Okay.
Something indicative of a self-inflicted, you know, that's sounds like a fight. And
that doesn't sound like self-inflicted. Life insurance? That doesn't sound like self-inflicted life insurance. This keeps coming out. Does he have a life insurance policy on her? That sounds like a fight. So the screaming that he's referring to, that sounds like a fight, which is the cards that we got. I'm tied up, manipulation, gaslighting, I'm under someone else's control, trying to break free, can't break free. The scream is communication. The scream is me communicating that I'm unable to break free. Life insurance. So we're talking about, it doesn't sound like self-inflicted. It sounds like a fight. Life insurance. Give me 3 cards that go with life insurance about secrets kept. And in the update that I did of this deck, I renamed this card to something about like an organized network or a secret hidden network. Hidden network? I think hidden network. So that would be the helper of sorts. Secrets kept, someone else knows. Doesn't sound like self-infliction. It sounds like a fight. Friend. I said someone else knows. Secrets kept, friend. A friend of JP, John Paul. Inside. Someone has inside information. So it doesn't sound like self-infliction. It sounds like a fight. Now, if it doesn't sound like self-infliction and it sounds like a fight, and we're getting someone keeping a secret, a friend, which means a third party or a third person involved with inside information about life insurance or about what led to the potential to file for life insurance, aka the passing, when it comes to the scream and whether or not that was part of self-infliction or a fight, someone's keeping a secret that has inside information. So if she was alone and it was self-inflicted, nobody else would have inside information that needs to keep a secret.
With the bruising on her hands and on her arm, scratches on her hands, indicating defensive wounds. So
injuries indicating defensive wounds. Let's do it like this. Give me one card for, how did I just want to do this? One card for defensive wounds. No, I don't want to do it that way. 4 cards from MICA. What can we know about potential defensive wounds found on her body? Red flag in reverse. A red flag that's being ignored. Travel in reverse. Goes with freedom in reverse. I was unable to get away. Red flags are being ignored by those who are investigating, because if it's self-infliction, did she also do that to herself? Bioweapon, which would be, in this case to me, bioweapon feels like a physical restraint from another person, as opposed to like being tied up or anything like that. Bio would be human holding me back. Unable to get away. Red flags being ignored when it comes to what was seen on her body in terms of defensive wounds, organized crime, more than one person.
Very frustrating.
Well, when you say defensive wounds, is that something that was told to you by a medical professional when you talked about multiple casings there? Where did you get this information? And when you brought this information to law enforcement or brought it or mentioned to them, what did they say?
Okay, as far as finding out, the park ranger took us back to the scene and pointed out, here's where she would have been standing. Here's where the shell casings and the live round were, which also doesn't make sense. She knew how to use a weapon. She got the weapon for self-protection. She told me.
I did a reading that I didn't post because the last 10 minutes of it got messed up with the microphone. But I got about the defensive or the protection in there. Or was that one of the readings that I did post? I don't remember. But what can MICA tell us? 3 cards about her purchasing the weapon for protection, feeling like she needed protection. Drama in reverse, cover up. Portal. So coming through the portal, trying to keep myself undercover, trying to keep myself protected so that there's no drama. I would say that reads like protection because I don't want drama. I want to stay hidden. I want to stay concealed. I want to stay safe. And then portals, like I want to feel like I'm in another timeline. I want to feel like I'm not connected to the fear that I'm feeling that's making me feel like I need the weapon in the first place. So to me, that would be a confirmation of her purchasing the weapon for protection. Regret. See, now I can't remember if this was in a reading that I posted or if this was in the one that got messed up. But I said something in the reading about if he knew that she went and got the weapon for protection, did he then try, what's the word I used? Like mock her with it? Like, okay, you're getting this for protection. Watch, it's going to end up being used to not protect you. Almost like knowing that she'd be seen on camera purchasing said weapon and then filling in the rest of the plan because, okay, now we have this one piece of her doing this that we can now flip it and make it look like she bought it for this reason to take herself out. Devil, woods and forest. But the devil was in the woods with her. She purchases said weapon. She goes to the woods or is taken. I don't know how she got to the woods, but devil and woods. When we're talking about the potential of her being mocked by the weapon that she purchased for protection being used against her when she ended up unalived in the woods, and we had the devil card coming out with it.
Days beforehand, Dad, I really feel like I need a weapon for protection. And she knows how to use it. She's qualified. She's been through.
2 cards. MICA to her father. Dad, I really feel like I need a weapon for protection. 2 cards. Secret weapon. I don't want anyone else to know that I have it. I want to, oh, that's confirmation. I want to keep it covered up. I want to have it, not have anyone know I have it. Secret weapon for protection. Secret and secret. She really didn't want JP to know that she had this weapon. I feel like it's almost as if she knew or felt like if he knew that she had a way to protect herself, that he would amp it up or take it to the next level. Because now I don't have full control. I can't do whatever I want to because you could fight back if I take it too far. I don't like that. I don't want you to be able to fight back if I take it too far. Couple. I don't want you to be able to fight back if I take it too far. A couple on a hill. Right.
Through training. She's not going to charge the weapon and eject a live round. She already knows the first rule of gun, use is knowing the condition of the gun. So we got the information about the shells. I did it directly from the park ranger, and then
3 cards from MICA. What can we know about the live round that her father, Michael, is saying that she would have known better than to... I don't really know that much about how that works. I guess, I don't know. How, if she knew better than to discard it in the way it was discarded of. 3 cards from MICA about that. What can we know about the live round? Kidnapped. My hands are tied. We know about the live round. Treason. Rope. My hands are tied. Treason, betraying your own country or betraying your own person. Social media. What would everybody be talking about on social media with the live round? I don't understand the social media card. Real information. People are talking about real information. Are people talking about... She would not have disposed of the live round in that way. I'm wondering if he knows less about weapons. Social media, AI in reverse. Social media has real information about this, or there's been real information discussed about. My hands are tied, some kind of betrayal, which would make me feel like a confirmation that MICA is saying that she is not the one who improperly disposed of the live round. I feel like that's what these 2 cards are saying. My hands are tied, some kind of betrayal, aka MICA's not the one who disposed of the live round. Corruption and God in reverse, which would be devil. Devil is the card that came out with her in the woods, and corruption would be it's made to look this way, but that's not the truth. Money exchanging hands between the devil. My hands are tied. I'm being betrayed. Some kind of corruption or money exchanging hands from the devil. Now let's look into social media and real information. What kind of real information about or from social media has anything to do with a live round being disposed of properly or improperly? Mental health in reverse. Government. Social media, everyone's talking, real information, mental health reversed, government. My hands are tied, I'm being betrayed. Corruption from the devil. Everyone's talking about real information, mental health in reverse. Oh, is it fair to say that what this means is the piece of information about that's now coming out about the different rounds and the live rounds and all this stuff that doesn't fit in with the narrative? Social media, real information, everyone's going to be talking about how that really does not fit in and really does not make sense. It's going to put pressure on the investigators to explain the mental health difference between the 911 call calmness and in the woods just shooting rounds all over the place. Is that what that means? PSYOP, trash in reverse, needing to control the narrative, can't get away from what people are saying. So is it fair to say that putting pressure on that piece of the puzzle that does not make sense is putting pressure on the investigators to have to come up with a response that will get people to be like, okay, that makes sense because what you were saying previously did not? Caregiver in reverse. Intuition. Everyone's realizing that they don't really care. They just want it to go away. But putting pressure on that puts pressure on them to come up with an answer that makes sense. I'm hearing that's important. That card's important. Is it fair to say that this accident card is important? Military. Accident within the operation. Military is important because we just had government being the investigators. Accident is important when it comes to the operation. Also, he's in camo, so that would be woods, concealing. The accident of the extra rounds / live round made it so that what happened could not be concealed as well. Is it fair to say that what MICA is saying is that the live rounds and extra rounds were not supposed to happen or were not part of the plan, but they happened because of her either trying to get away, some kind of struggle, or some kind of unplanned factor when she was in the woods with the devil person? Because that would get, is it fair to say that that was an accident? Those weren't supposed to happen? Yes, because that would give law enforcement more to look into about what went down. Signs and symbols about what does not belong. It would give law enforcement signs and symbols of pieces of the puzzle that don't make sense or don't belong. Because if she's calm on the 911 call and trying to do it quietly and not have to deal with, I don't know, whatever, then why would she be in a frenzy a few minutes later? Unless something went wrong. And then there's clues that don't belong left for law enforcement. So can I have one single card confirmation if what this means is that MICA is saying that there was some kind of struggle, fight back, attempt to get away, something along those lines, that ultimately is the reason that there was the disposed of female in reverse. It wasn't her. That is responsible for the live round and other rounds. Female in reverse. It wasn't her. Okay.
When we brought that up to law enforcement, they just said, well, they had no answer. They really just had no answer why, you know, any kind of, not even
Oh, social media, maybe the family. They're putting pressure on law enforcement to give answers that they don't have. That's what he just said. Okay, that makes more sense. They don't have answers to give at all that would fill in the blank, and the family's putting pressure. You have to make this make sense. If this is your narrative, you have to have an answer for this.
Even the speculation, they didn't even say, well, she probably did this, probably did that. They just said, this is what we have. And I mean, there is what would be an apparent bullet hole in a tree, which I have a picture of. And they just didn't.
4 cards from MICA. There's a bullet hole in a tree. What can we know about how that bullet went from the gun to inside the tree? 4 cards. Fire in reverse, trying to put a fire out, trying to de-escalate a blowing up situation. That could be, how I said, her fighting back or trying to get away. Intuition. Confirmation of the last round of cards that we just pulled, in which we got that the rounds were not from MICA, and then confirmed with the female in reverse card. Hotel motel in reverse, giving a key, but in reverse, taking back a key. So the key would be the weapon. I take back the weapon. This is going to be an extra card. Is it fair to say that the struggle that I said, it may have been a struggle or may have been her trying to get away? Is it fair to say that she tried to get the weapon back from whoever else had it? No. Okay. So is it fair to say that she tried to get away or run away from whomever had taken the weapon from her? Boat, trying to get away. Yes. Okay. So is it fair to say that she tried to take the weapon back from another individual that had taken it from her? No, that's not true. Is it fair to say that she tried to get away from the person who had taken the weapon from her? Yes, vote. She tried to get away. Oh, and then the 4th card here. So how did the bullet get from the gun to the tree? Trying to de-escalate a situation. Intuition means she either tried to get away or tried to take it back. We found out that she tried to get away from what was taken from her, which is the key, the weapon. I feel like her purchasing the weapon was I'm going to pull an extra card for this too. I feel like her purchasing the weapon was what set everything into motion, because that's what, if John Paul was following her or having her followed and saw that happening, he then knew that there was no way for her to show up unprotected in the ways that she was previously. So is it fair to say that John Paul having her followed or watched as she purchased said weapon, even though she really wanted to keep it a secret, because we got secret weapon and secret society, so like she really wanted to keep it a secret, was unable to because she was being followed? Is it fair to say that that was what jump-started him being like, something has to change because I no longer have the power that I used to? 1 card from MICA. Is that what jump-started everything? Distraction. Distraction. I don't know where you're going with this. Distraction. Is that what jump-started everything? Oh, the picture. It stressed him out. He was in his head. But distraction is like, is it fair to say that after she purchased the weapon, he was unable to think about anything else? He was hyper focused on that. Everything else was falling away because he knew that he had lost the power he had on her previously, hence making that the catalyst for what ended up unfolding. Stranger, mask on. Once the weapon was purchased, she was no longer the same person that he viewed her as before. She was someone else, AKA someone that he did not any longer have power and control over like he felt like he needed to. Murder. Okay, what's the fourth card? So how did this casing end up in the tree? Trying to de-escalate. What we said in the previous round has something to do with it. It wasn't that she tried to grab it back. It's that she tried to get away from what was taken from her. And then one final card, if MICA could sum up how that bullet ended up in the tree, not from her, but from the weapon that she purchased. Con man, deep fake, mask off. How did it get in the tree? Someone who is not who they appeared to be, or someone who was sent there under the guise of something else. So to summarize, is it fair to say that MICA is saying that how that ended up in the tree is because she was trying to de-escalate a situation by getting away from the person who had taken said weapon from her? Sent from JP is how I want to word that. She tries to get away, and how it ends up in the tree is con man, deep fake, someone who is not who they appear to be. So is it fair to say that what MICA is saying is the weapon was taken from her, she tried to get away, the bullet ended up in the tree during that point in time? No delay, love. No delay, love in reverse, solved. So no delay. I said, is it fair to say that when she purchased the weapon, that's what jump started him feeling like, I can't focus on anything else. I'm very distracted. I don't have access to her anymore. Stranger, I can't get to her in the same way that I used to. Then we got the murder card. Delay in reverse. I can't wait anymore. I need to do this now. Love in reverse makes me feel like a confirmation it was not him directly. And then solved, I feel like is confirmation that of what I said, how I worded it. Can we have a confirmation from MICA that it ended up in the tree because someone took something from her, she tries to get away, and during all that, it ends up in the tree? Solved. Okay, let's see what else.
Seem to put the effort forth. So we're very disappointed in that.
And the defensive wounds, was that from the park ranger too, or
okay.
Yeah.
No, we looked at her hands during the viewing. We took pictures of her from the viewing. It was the worst day of my life. And she had scratches on her arms, and
I doubt he's going to see this, but just on the off chance he does. I have no more earthly worries. These are from MICA to her father, specifically about what he said about it being the worst day of his life. Just in the off chance he sees this. I have no more earthly worries. I was met by so many loving people. And let's get one more. I'm sorry, please forgive me, and you are never alone. I have no more earthly worries. To me, makes me feel like she's at peace now. To some extent, you know, obviously she's still very invested in her family's healing. I was met by so many loving people. she's not alone. You are never alone either, because she's still there with you. And I want to dig into, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I feel like I almost want to word this as I feel like it's about the weapon. I feel like she knew that there was some kind of risk that came with that. And I feel like she felt like she was doing what she believed she needed to do. But I feel like almost this card is saying, looking back in retrospect, I guess I'd word it as she's acknowledging how the purchasing of said weapon set things into motion in a way that she never could have imagined them unfolding. Bloodline in reverse, and it took her away from her father. All right, we're gonna keep going.
I mean, on her hand, and the coroner in training had the chief coroner with her, but she spoke out and said, well, maybe that's from when they retrieved her from the water. And I said, okay, of course, maybe. So, you know,
maybe the marks on her were when they retrieved her from the water. Friend in reverse. Celebrity. Wow. That's when I got the friend card at first, in my mind, I was thinking, okay, so the coroner or whoever said that to him said maybe it's from when they took her out of the water. When I got the friend card, in my mind, it was like, if that was your family member or your friend, as in the coroner, would you be comfortable with that theory? And then we got celebrity. So like MICA, not celebrity in terms of celebrity, but MICA's being very widely talked about. Friend is reversed. So to me, this is saying MICA to the coroner would say something along the lines of, if that was your friend or your family member, is that a theory that you would accept? Okay, maybe they did it taking her out of the water. Each.
Was there blood in those scratches and such? They had no answer. Very disappointing. So,
where's there blood in those scratches and such? They had no answer. Political. Why did I get with political? Covering our tracks. Political, covering our tracks. Legal proceedings, covering our tracks so that we don't get sued.
I basically said the scratches indicate some type of scuffle or something, because the area where she was, there was no trees or anything anyway. There was no trees in the water. There was nothing there that would have scratched her hands the way they were. I mean, like,
there was nothing near her that would have scratched her the way that she was scratched. 2 cards from MICA. Death in reverse, when she was still alive before her passing. Deep state, deep state, deep state. I know it's still alive. Deep state, deep scratches. Shallow. Confirm deep state. Which way are we going with that card? Psyop. There was nothing in the water that could have scratched her that way. Death in reverse. Deep state psyop. Deep state, control the narrative. Something that runs deeply to control the narrative about something when MICA was still alive. There was no trees in the water that could have scratched her that way. Is it fair to say that if the family doesn't accept the theory of potentially the trees in the water scratching her, that the next answer that they would be given by investigators will be something along the lines of maybe it did occur when she was still alive with him, but that doesn't mean that he unalived her. Is that the narrative that they would then paint if the family did not accept trees in the water, desert in reverse, desert upright, lack of resources in reverse, you have the resources. If you don't accept this, we're giving you this. I almost feel like it's a situation where they know that they messed up to some extent, the investigators, but they don't want to admit that. But if they have to, they will. So it's almost like certain narratives like that, like, okay, it's the trees in the water. Okay, well, if it's not, if you're not going to accept that and you're going to push forward with trying to get a different answer, the answer that we will give you is something that makes JP not look good, but doesn't necessarily paint him to be a murderer. Is that fair to say? Treason in reverse, not the ultimate betrayal, but something that's not right, aka the scratches. Let's see.
Like this. You know? So, it showed it indicated that there was, some type of pressure. That's where the bruise was, and just,
Well, Michael, here's the thing. And
there was some kind of pressure. That's where the bruise was. There was some kind of pressure. That's where the bruise was. High vibes, burial in reverse. So that would be death. And high vibes is going to be the same thing as death in reverse. Burial in reverse, confirmation. What was the other card that just came out? Was it burial? High vibes. Caregiver in reverse. That's where the bruising was. Death in reverse. High vibes. When I'm still alive. Caregiver in reverse. War in reverse. Manipulation, gaslighting, and control. Caregiver in reverse makes me think of like assisted self-unaliving. In order to avoid some kind of battle that needed the narrative controlled of it. Is it fair to say that what appears on her hand or arm or wrist, wherever it is, scratch wise, does that have something to do with runaway in reverse, trapped? There's the devil. I'm trying to get away from the devil. Uncovered. Weapon. Secret trip. Someone that was there that wasn't known to be there, concealing some kind of weapon that was then uncovered. She was unable to get away from the devil in the woods. Is it fair to say that the markings on her are her being forced into a certain compromising position so that it looked like self-unaliving? Like her body parts being forced to meeting in reverse, so that the meeting was concealed, so that the other party was concealed, and that it looked like she was the one to knock over the dominoes.
I know I hate to ask you this, and I know it must be difficult to revisit it, but when you mentioned the 911 phone call, when that came out, I think a lot of people who were suspecting there might be something there, they were convinced that that was the end of the story. When you mentioned that 911 phone call, you said there's something about the way that MICA sounded on the phone that sounded odd to you. What do you mean by
absolutely.
that?
very slow speech. She's a very happy-go-lucky, excitable person. And it was too slow. It was very slow. It was metered. It could have been done with an AI type of previous recordings where
Could have been done with AI type of previous recordings. Desert, a mirage. You see it and it's not there. So you hear her and it's not her.
somebody would have had those words from her previously, or whatever. And so it just doesn't make sense that he would go up there.
Do you have a theory as to what happened? Because authorities are saying, they crossed out his alibi of where he was. Do you have a theory as to what happened? And again, I know this is sensitive, so if you don't want to share it, I understand. But do you have a theory as to what you believe happened to your daughter?
Okay, well, I'll share what we spoke to about with the authorities, the sheriff in North Carolina. Also, as far as with his location, we've seen pictures of his truck. It had dark windows. Was it even him in there? Where's pictures of him physically there? We haven't seen those. They've not been produced. If someone else has them, we would like to see them to prove that he was there, because otherwise it could be anybody in that truck. So the theory would be that because she had multiple tracking devices put on her car previously, that she was followed out to the park or forced to go out to the park, and they either follow her out there, or there's no reason for her to go out there. That's the main point as well. She's never been out there. We don't go up there. It's not a family spot. And she was off the trail enough into a park ranger only area that nobody knows about. And so the theory would be that she
what I'm getting with this so far, he talked about if she had potentially been coerced to go to where she ended up going, meeting and mental health. I feel like there may be some merit to someone in some way getting her to go there. But mental health with collapse in reverse, I'll meet you there. We can talk about whatever, but that's not what brought me to the ending. Frozen makes me think either frozen in fear and or once I get there and I recognize what's actually going on, I'm frozen, I'm stuck, I'm out of other options.
Was either tracked, and then they said, well, we
also frozen would be another variation of being trapped.
Didn't find a tracking device. Well, they could have removed it at the park.
Really good point. If there was tracking on her and not when she was found, or on her vehicle, but not when the vehicle was found, where did it go and when? Freedom. False freedom. If there was tracking and it wasn't found on her at the end, where did it go? False freedom. Is it fair to say that what this means is it's not that it wasn't there, but it was that it was taken off of where it was on her vehicle after or right before her ending by whomever was sent to follow her, whoever was paid to follow her. Greed and healing, greed and alignment, greedy energy. Take. Is it fair to say that it was removed either before or after? Everything falling into alignment. Almost as if like almost as if there's like some original plan for this from the other person that just went wrong. I don't know how to explain what I'm getting. I take it when everything falls into alignment. Or I take it and then everything falls into alignment. Conspiracy theory on its side. So I have some right and some wrong. So the plan it didn't go wrong. Parts of it did, but that was essentially what the plan was. Okay, so when everything falls into alignment, I take it. What does that mean? Everything falls into alignment and I take it. Crossroad. Revenge in reverse. Only other way of revealing. Oh, revenge in reverse would be not JP, but whomever was sent. Is it fair to say that there was somebody sent and following her that was under the instructions of JP to take that off of her vehicle when they saw the right opportunity? And when they did, when that everything aligned, they were able to remove tracking devices. Is that fair to say? Inside out, taking them out. Okay, 1 second. Okay.
When the car was at the park and then it was collected by the authorities, they didn't check for a tracker, which blew my mind. They said, oh, we have all the evidence and everything. We asked them, was there a tracker on her car? And they said, well, we didn't check. And we were flabbergasted. This happened over and over during that interview. Why didn't you check that? We know that there was 3 or 4 trackers put on her vehicles. Why wouldn't you check to see if she was followed? They said, oh, there's no cameras, but we know she wasn't followed. Her car is just out here. And I said, well, there's no trackers. They said no tracker. I said, well, they could have removed it after they did the deed. So then Micah's mother, Angelita, she said, pretend this is Micah's hand. And she asked me, grab this hand. And then she pulled it up, and said, it looks like someone squeezed her hand and raised it up and shot. And
so these two came out for the police about the tracker, and abuse, neglect, and ritual. To me, that feels like almost like a level of desensitization. I don't know how to say that word right now. Desensitized about, we see it all the time. If there's a tracker or there's not a tracker, what difference is it going to make? Because we made our ruling about what we think happened here. I feel like that's the message I was getting with these two. And then he said about the weapon in the hand and someone raising it up to her head. 3 cards from MICA about that. AI, the AI to her head. I almost wonder if this is saying that that's how the phone call came to be too. Trafficking would be movement. Oh, falsely moving. Oh, because there's hands in here. Hands are tied. False movement of hands. It was not her moving her hands. It was artificial movement of the hand. Someone externally moving her hand. Someone who had power, mighty, affluent.
And their defensive wounds from it and such. And that's the general idea of our theory, that somebody crushed her hand to hold the gun up to her head while she's fighting. Either them or someone else held her other hand or her other arm back because there's bruising on it from squeezing.
There's the same card that came out in the very beginning, self-sabotage in reverse. When we're talking about the actual point of the gun going off, self-sabotage in reverse, AI, I'm not moving my hand. My hand is artificially moving or moving from movements that I'm not generating. It was not self-sabotage. someone else was a party to what happened. Allegedly, my opinion.
And they forced it to look like that was self-inflicted. And a couple of rounds went off during the scuffle. One ejected was live, and then it finally happened the way they would.
Someone made it look like that. There was a scuffle. One of the things was live, and then they made it look a certain way. Bloodline came out as he was saying that. The tree makes me think of the woods where she was found. The DNA at the bottom makes me think of like the connection between one side and the other, like what her and the other person, and bloodline about what her father is saying. So what does MICA in 3 cards want to say about what her father has said about the hand movement not being organically from her, but being forced from another person to be made to look like it was a self-unaliving, and about the different casings and live round being found as the result of some kind of struggle between MICA and another individual. 3 cards from MICA about Michael, her father, just saying that. Secret trip in reverse, secret being revealed. So the truth being revealed, what is previously kept under wraps coming out. She said what she said. Secret in reverse again. That's the second time that 2 secret cards came out together. Secret trip. So I feel like that card is saying that he's hitting correctly on what made her be there in the first place, with being lured, or I forget what word he used, coerced maybe, to go to where she ended up. Secret being revealed. I feel like she's saying that her father is understanding what really happened, just having trouble getting other people to help him prove it. Fire in reverse. That was the same card that came out when we were talking about those live rounds, and it was referring to the attempt to de-escalate the whole thing from MICA trying to get away.
Would want it to happen, and then dumped her in the water, probably 40 meters away from where the shell casings in the gun was found. The water doesn't flow there. It's a slough. It's still. It just.
That doesn't make sense. Self-unaliving to the head. How do you end up 40 meters away in water if the water didn't come and take you? Secret trip in reverse. Because I didn't know he was going to say that. Secret trip in reverse. If I'm not alive, how am I moving? Propaganda, fake news, outer space in reverse. In space. The scene is staged. Outer space in reverse. So inside of the area that they're referring to, it's not what it appears to be. So someone else put her in the water. Portal in, now it's reverse, portal to hell. It was upright when we were talking about her getting away from a dangerous situation by having protection. Now it's reversed. What I thought was going to bring me into a new timeline of protection is actually getting me placed in the water when I'm not alive.
Sinks, and it actually flows.
Not
when
that
it
she could've
sinks, when
moved.
it recesses, it goes the other direction from where she was found. So her body, even if it was put in the water right there, would not have flowed the direction where she was found. It would flow the other way. So it would be possible that the incident occurred right there, and the shell casings, and then the gun was dumped in the water right there, and then she was carried farther 40 meters back into a little bit more secluded area.
Is that fair to say that the actual unfolding of the potential struggle and whatever else unfolded happened in one area, and then she was placed somewhere where it would be harder to find her? Or at least it was believed that it'd be harder to find her. Faked death in reverse, real death. Yes.
Where she was found.
So Sierra Francis now joins the conversation. This is Micah's sister. Sierra, thank you so much for coming on. As I told your father, I just want to say again, I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry for what you and your family are going through. Our hearts go out to you guys. And again, really appreciate you taking the time and being so generous with your time to come on and talk a little bit more about this. So I've already spoken to your father a lot about what you guys believe might have happened here, I want to talk to you about this legal claim that you have filed against Mr. Miller and the church. Walk us through what that claim is and what you're hoping to get from that.
As far as the legal side of things, I don't have, perfect details of everything. I'm just trying to pick up where MICA left off and make sure that justice is served and that we are able to, remain over her estate and make sure that it is used or allotted in the way that she would have wanted it to.
Do you know anything about the FBI being a part of this investigation now? Were you told anything about that, what they might be looking into?
So we are aware that Robeson County did come out and say that the FBI is involved, but as far as what they're investigating and the extent of their involvement, the family's not sure.
Okay. I wanted to ask you this, both of you this. So look, the main argument, and it's being put forward by Mr. Miller, and what we've seen is MICA, they say, had suffered from mental illness. Do you know anything about that? Anything you could tell us about that? Because one of the things that Mr. Miller has said is he had this power of attorney set up for that reason. What can you tell us about what MICA might have been going?
Really quick, I feel like King of Wands in reverse came out. I feel like the sister has a very calming effect on the father, and that is what MICA is pointing out. Like when he needs support, when he's getting really heated, it feels like MICA's sister is a very calming influence on him, and I feel like MICA's just acknowledging that with this card. Seven of Cups in reverse was referencing the clarity. Four of Wands, pretty self-explanatory, and then on the bottom of the deck we had the Page of Wands. I say self-explanatory because of the picture in this case. Page of Wands. So so talking about the FBI is when the Page of Wands was on the bottom of the deck. What can we know about that? So it shows like a devil figure chasing down another person. Rival. Weird science in reverse. Breakup in reverse. Is it fair to say that MICA's sister is hopeful that the FBI will not have the same narrative regarding MICA's mental state? She's hopeful that the FBI will go head to head with those who are very sure that MICA did it to herself. It's like, I feel like either this is pointing towards like forensics or pointing towards like the things at the crime scene, like the casings and the live round that were left unaddressed. It's almost like they're banking on the FBI potentially helping them make sense of those pieces. Is that fair to say? Psychic abilities, yes. Okay.
Going through.
So before MICA married John Paul, she had no signs, no history, no indications of mental illness at all.
And why?
Three cards from MICA. Before MICA married John Paul, she had no signs of mental illness at all. Three cards from MICA. Home. Road in reverse. When I was home, before I left to be with him, I was in my power. I recognized my own light. I was powerful. I could light up a room.
Why did she presumably agree to a power of attorney? Usually the person who sets up would have to agree to it and sign to it.
He had every way to control her, and he was very good at manipulating the situation.
And she thought that he would be doing the right thing. She wanted to trust that Mr. Miller Jr. was actually doing the right thing for them. And
power of attorney, he had the ways to manipulate her. Stranger, he wasn't who she thought he was. Embezzlement, upright. Is that upright? Yeah, it's upright. He wasn't who she thought he was. Embezzlement, there's a lot of talk about whether or not MICA had actually known about something nefarious money-wise within the church, and if she was planning on turning on that or him. So he's not who he appears to be. He has different motives. And we're talking about power of attorney. Royalty, I'm just taking my royalties. I'm not who you thought I was. I will take whatever I feel like is owed to me or due to me when we're talking about power of attorney. So I feel like what this is saying is more manipulation, or just I'm taking what I feel like I should have the right to take from him to her, law enforcement. I'm doing it legally, power of attorney.
Away from him and had more time when she spent more time with us to peel off some of those layers and realize what was going on. And then she started becoming herself again and got a job and everything else and was doing fine and was happy-go-lucky self again, excited about the future, and which is something he did not like. Just, just very terrible.
There are these allegations that he groomed her. What do we mean by that?
Social media, party in reverse, referencing him not liking her being happy or feeling hopeful. He doesn't want people to see that, so he ends that celebration. Party, to me, is like a 3 of Cups in the tarot. So like camaraderie, celebration. He does not want people to see her as that joyous person.
He had his sights set on her from a very young age. I would guess probably 14 years old, 14 or 15 when we first came to the church. And he made sure that he kept her exactly where he wanted her, to the point of who she married, what job she picked up after she was, 18. He got her married, and then he made her his secretary and his babysitter and his let's go to lunch person, and oh, you're so beautiful.
And then when she was married, same thing, best friends with her husband, her previous husband, and manipulated the situation where he could have him doing something because he was his right-hand man, and then spend time with MICA alone, which is very inappropriate.
And to be clear about that, are you alleging that he engaged in criminal contact with MICA? And if so, again, my understanding is there's no time bar in South Carolina to bring charges. Is this something that you're speaking with about authorities with?
I don't think he physically had a relationship with her until after she had already been married to Jeremy.
I wanted to ask you about something else. And this goes back to that idea of why he says, and correct me if I'm wrong, why he says he...
Angel's ancestors, I feel like, is MICA confirming what her sister said about the physical relationship occurring after her being married to Jeremy.
He had to set up the power of attorney. He was concerned about whether MICA would be taking money, because there was this allegation that MICA was a suspect in the theft of $1,200 in donations for the Solid Rock, this missionary efforts. I understand you want to clear the record up on that.
That was investigated. I have seen, police excerpts on that, and from what I've seen, to best of my knowledge, it said that was just a domestic dispute, and there was no criminal charges to be filed.
Okay, and also, as far as the amount that was mentioned, MICA was having trouble with the websites releasing the money to her from the donations,
such as Venmo or stuff like that.
Right. They were holding on to those funds, as they do, for like the 3-day period or whatever, gaining interest. And so during that period where the money didn't show up yet, he was accusing her of stealing that money. And then after the fact, after she's passed, all the money showed back in except 1 penny.
Not to mention that the money wasn't money that was donated.
Secrets kept, corrupted media source in reverse, good in reverse. Is it fair to say that the whole money thing was essentially him trying to make her feel like he was keeping her secrets just as she was keeping his? Like, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Okay, now we're even. We need runaway in reverse. Now you're trapped. Now you're stuck. So it wasn't her trying to take anything. It was him trying to capitalize on a situation where he knew that that was not the case, but knew that he could flip it to make it look like that was the case, to try and convince her that she needed to stay around with him because he was keeping her secrets or keeping her safe and protected. Is that fair to say? Fraud, yeah, not what it appears to be.
And she was stealing it. This money was, hey, I've put six.
There's money in the glasses too. So when we're talking about it looking like MICA had taken something that did not belong to her, that's not the truth about the money.
$600 out of my pocket with the intention of, hey, you know, I will be reimbursed from this, because that's what she was told. Hey, spend your $600 to purchase, you know, all the donuts that you're using for fundraising. It's a charity. We'll make sure we reimburse you. So it's not even stealing. It's reimbursement for what she's already put into.
Right.
And before I let you go, I have to ask you about this letter that came out that he had seemingly apologized to MICA for what he said was releasing a nude photograph of her on the internet. What was your reaction to that letter?
He's a faker.
Yeah.
He likes to band-aid everything so he can still control and manipulate people.
I told him straight up, because of his behavior before, okay, now go ahead and go cry in front of your church and apologize like you always do. Mm-hmm. And he didn't during the sermon and his bombshell drop at the last point. He didn't do his fake sniveling, crying, fake stuff. He just, you know, until later, but he would, numerous times, he would go in front of the church and say, I'm sorry, I did this and I did that. I'm sorry. If you don't want me to be the pastor, I'll leave. And they would say, oh, no, you do such a great job. And then it would happen again and again.
Right.
3 cards from MICA. What would she say about what her father just said about him messing up and then getting in front of the congregation and saying, I'm sorry, if you want me to resign, I'll leave? 3 cards from MICA. Male, so talking about him. Plot twist. Where is this about to go? Female. Him getting up in front of the congregation. I messed up. If you want me to resign, I'll leave. That was not the same as what happened with him and her. Is it fair to say the message from MICA here is every time he knew he messed up, he'd get in front of the congregation and say, okay, I'm sorry, I did something wrong. If you want me to resign, I will. But when it came to her, if he did something wrong, it was more wrong things to bury the wrong thing as opposed to taking accountability. Fire, that's the fight that she was trying to de-escalate by getting safely away.
And if they did stand up against him, he would threaten them with removing them from the church, or he would just straight out remove them in front of everybody. And then later in sermons said, oh, well, they just left for no reason. I don't know why they left.
Michael, Sierra,
I don't know anything that comes out of his mouth. It's all backwards.
Okay, 1 second, because there's a name on this card, and for some reason it's catching my attention. I just want to look up. Irma Serrano was a Mexican singer, actress, and politician famous for her tantalizing, untamed Spitfire voice. Irma name meaning means universal, complete, or entire. It comes from an old German word meaning world. So complete, entire world. And then Serrano, the last name, Serrano. Again, this is just the name that's on this card. It happens to be on the card. It just caught my attention. Means lives near a mountain ridge. So Spitfire, complete mountain ridge. She was in the woods, so woods would be mountains. Everything came to a completion in the woods mountains because of a Spitfire. Untamed Spitfire. Tantalizing. Tantalizing means possessing a quality that arouses or stimulates desire or interest. Spitfire, a person, especially a girl or woman, who is of fiery temper and easily provoked to outbursts. Oh, fire. Untamed Spitfire. Interesting. Okay, what is the message from MICA about the name on that card? An untamed Spitfire, that's likely a female. So a female who's not willing to, no longer willing to back down and let you trample over her with your words. Coming to a completion near the mountains or in the woods. So an argument coming to a completion in a secluded area. An argument coming to a completion in a secluded area. We were talking about how he got up in front of the congregation and apologized and said, I'll step down if you want to, but would not do that with her. That argument coming to a completion in the woods. Is it fair to say that whatever led to this happening was an argument that had started a little bit ago, and the catalyst for what ended up happening was because that argument was already ongoing? MICA was unwilling to back down. She was like, no, this time I'm not letting you run all over me. I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that. Then purchases the weapon, and he recognizes that he no longer has control over her and has to bring the situation or that argument that had started previously to a completion, which ends up with what happened. Is that fair to say? PSYOP in reverse. I'm no longer able to control the narrative, so I rival in reverse, home in reverse. I make it so that this fight no longer makes it home, or her no longer makes it home.
Well, Michael, Sarah, here's what I wanted to ask you. This is going to be an ongoing discussion. And I was hoping, and first of all, thank you for being so forthcoming to come on to explain this, give your perspective on what's happening. As this progresses, can we keep an open line, and can you come?
Okay, that's all. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up for now. Keep looking at this deck. Can I have one card from this deck? It's like my quote deck, but I feel like some cards in here would kind of give us an insight into like mental health type energy. So one card from MICA from this deck, almost like as a confirmation that it's MICA that we've been speaking to. Okay. They can't take nothing from you but notes. Let them watch and learn. The notes from JP. And let them watch and learn. He's now learning. Let them watch and learn. Everyone's watching everything unfolding as they're learning about who he is. Let them take notes. They're learning who he is through the notes and the different characteristics displayed in this case. Okay, 2 cards as ending from MICA. And then we're going to wrap this up for now. False flag, spouse, partner. the ending note of this reading, is it fair to say that the ending note that Micah wants to give is that he is not at all who he pretends to be? Is that frozen? Okay, let me reshuffle. Is it fair to say he is not at all who he pretends to be? Alien in reverse, portal. Someone who does not belong coming through the portal. He tries to act like he's holier than thou when all of his intentions are lower vibrational and very self-serving. Freedom in reverse, traps. She was trapped in his self-serving portal. Okay. Please remember, this is an energy reading. It's all alleged, my opinion, not facts. I'll probably look into this again as more comes out. Talk to you soon.